The alien had never felt fear like this before. The forest around her was alive, not with ordinary wildlife, but with shadows that moved as if they were conscious. Rustling leaves and cracking branches echoing like whispers from the dark. Every step she took felt heavy, as if the ground itself was conspiring to trap her. Her eyes darted constantly, catching flickers of movement just beyond sight, shapes that seemed to vanish the moment she focused on them. The air was thick and humid, carrying the scent of unknown plants and the faint metallic tang of something else, something alive and dangerous. Her claws dug into the soft moss beneath her feet, ready to fight or flee, but her mind froze with every rustle. She could hear it, the low, guttural growl that vibrated through the underbrush, a sound so deep it seemed to shake her very bones. She froze, chest rising and falling quickly, trying to control her panic, trying to convince herself that it was just another predator, another challenge she had faced before. But this felt different, bigger, smarter. The hairs along her spine stood on end as the growl came again, louder, closer, almost as if it were testing her. She raised her weapon instinctively, shaking, knowing that she might only get one shot if the creature charged. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might give her position away. And then she saw him, a human, stepping forward calmly into the clearing, chest straight, eyes scanning the shadows as though he belonged there. Her jaw dropped. How could someone move so unshaken in this place where every shadow screamed danger and every noise promised death? She wanted to shout a warning, to tell him to run, to hide, to do anything, but something in his calm gaze rooted her in place. He took a slow step toward the growl, hands empty, shoulders relaxed. The low rumble intensified, and suddenly a massive creature emerged from the shadows. Its body was enormous, covered in dark scales that shimmered in the faint light of the glowing plants. Eyes glowed gold like molten fire, and teeth, sharp and jagged, dripped with saliva that hissed as it fell to the ground. Its claws dug into the earth, leaving deep gouges, and each step shook the ground beneath them. The alien's mind screamed that it would kill them both instantly. Her body wanted to flee, wanted to vanish, wanted to deny what was happening. But she couldn't move. She could only watch, frozen as the human stepped closer, unwavering. The creature growled, a sound so deep and angry it made her ears ring. Its eyes locked on the human, muscles tensed, ready to strike. She expected him to fire a weapon, to raise a shield, to defend himself with technology, but he did nothing of the sort. Instead, he knelt slightly and extended one hand, fingers open and relaxed. A faint smile touched his lips. The creature paused mid-step, nostrils flaring, eyes narrowing as it studied him. The alien's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't afraid, and somehow that fearlessness was speaking to the predator. Slowly, ever so slowly, the creature lowered its massive head, sniffing the human's hand. She held her breath as the tension stretched between them, the forest holding its own. The human moved deliberately, carefully, but without hesitation, offering the creature a piece of raw meat from his pack. The creature sniffed, growled softly, and then, astonishingly, took it from his hand without attacking. Its eyes never left him, studying, calculating, judging, but it made no move to strike. She stepped back, claws digging into the moss as she tried to comprehend what she had just seen. She had studied predators, trained for survival on hostile worlds, and yet never had she witnessed anything like this. This human did not fight, he did not dominate through violence, and he did not flee. He simply stood there, calm, controlled, commanding presence that made the deadliest creature in the jungle pause and obey. The alien's mind raced. What kind of human was this? How could he have such control? She realized slowly that the fear she had felt, the panic, the instinct to survive, all of it paled compared to the calm authority he radiated. The jungle around them seemed to acknowledge him, shadows parting slightly, distant noises fading into silence, as if the forest itself waited for his next move. The creature finished the meat, then, with a final rumble, turned and disappeared into the darkness of the dense forest. The alien exhaled slowly, feeling her muscles relax for the first time in hours. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, too. understand how one being could hold such power over life itself. But no words came. The human turned to her, still calm, still smiling faintly, and said simply, "He's with us." She stared at him, mind spinning. The weight of his words, simple yet profound, hit her. Something had shifted in the jungle. Something had shifted in her. She realized in that moment that survival would no longer depend only on weapons, reflexes, or cunning. It would depend on understanding him, following him, trusting him, even when everything else screamed danger. And she knew that this was only the beginning. Jungle had more secrets. The creature was only one of many. The night was far from over. Then yet, as she followed him deeper into the shadows, her fear mixed with curiosity, awe, and a strange sense of hope. She did not know what waited ahead, but she knew one thing for certain: with him, she had a chance not just to survive, but to witness something extraordinary, something the galaxy had never seen before. The jungle around them grew darker and heavier with every step. Strange vines twisted like living ropes, and the glowing plants cast eerie shadows that danced across the thick trunks of massive trees. The alien's heart still pounded from the encounter with the massive creature, and she could not shake the feeling that something else was watching them. Her eyes scanned every movement, every shadow. She could feel her muscles tense, ready to spring at the first sign of danger. She glanced at the human walking calmly ahead, his movements smooth, measured, and completely unshaken by the darkness or the unseen threats that lurked in every corner. His presence was almost magnetic, a strange force that seemed to quiet the fears of the forest itself. She had never seen anyone move with such confidence, such control, and it both fascinated and terrified her. As they advanced, a faint rustling echoed from the underbrush. The alien froze, instincts screaming that another predator was near. She wanted to shout a warning, to prepare for an attack, but the human raised a hand, motioning for her to remain silent. Slowly, the rustling grew louder, and then, through the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes appeared. Not one, but many dozens of small creatures, agile and fast, their eyes glimmering like shards of polished stone. They moved in perfect coordination, circling, testing, observing. The alien's tail twitched nervously, her claws digging into the moss. She had trained for countless ambushes, faced hostile predators across multiple worlds, yet she had never seen such coordinated movement, such intelligence in creatures so small. She watched as the human stopped, his head tilting slightly as he studied them. Without a weapon, without a gesture of aggression, he simply stood, calm and patient. The creatures hesitated, as if sensing something in him, a force they could not understand, but instinctively respected. Then one bold creature leapt forward, faster than she could follow with her eyes. She expected the human to be attacked, to scream, to fight, but he didn't. He sidestepped smoothly, almost effortlessly, letting the small predator pass harmlessly by. It landed, froze for a moment, then darted back to the shadows, followed by the others. The alien exhaled slowly, trying to regain her composure. How are you doing this?" she asked quietly, almost afraid of breaking the moment. The human glanced at her, a faint smile on his lips. "It's not about fighting," he said simply. "It's about understanding. They test you. Yes, but they also listen. You just have to show you are not a threat." She tried to absorb his words, but the jungle offered no time for reflection. From above, a rustle of wings cut through the heavy air. Giant shadowed forms swooped down. Nearly invisible in the dim glow, talons extended and beaks open. The alien's instincts screamed that they were about to be torn apart. She moved to protect herself, ready to strike, but the human raised a hand, calm and commanding. The creatures froze mid-flight, wings flapping, talons dangling, eyes fixed on him. The alien felt her jaw drop. He wasn't threatening them, wasn't calling for help, wasn't even making noise. And yet, they obeyed. They hovered for a tense moment, uncertain, testing his presence, and then, one by one, they veered away, disappearing back into the canopy. She could feel her own fear ebbing slightly, replaced by awe and disbelief. This is impossible." She whispered more to herself than to him. The human didn't respond immediately. He merely continued walking, eyes scanning the shadows, ears attuned to sounds she could barely hear. "Impossible only lasts until you see it," he said quietly, as though speaking to the jungle itself. As they moved deeper, the alien began to notice strange patterns on the trees and ground-glowing symbols that pulsed faintly, as if alive. The human paused and knelt, tracing the patterns with his fingers. "The jungle remembers," he said. Softly, "It remembers all who walk here, all who take, all who survive. You just need to know how to read it." Her mind reeled. She had encountered alien ecosystems before, some even intelligent in their own way, but nothing like this. The forest seemed aware, alive, observing their every move. And yet the human walked as if he belonged, understanding the rhythm of the elite jungle and the creatures within it. She tried to mimic him, attempting to calm her breathing and sense the environment rather than react with fear. Every fiber of her being screamed that danger lurked in every shadow. A distant growl made her flinch. The massive creature from earlier war, perhaps another like it, was moving closer, its steps shaking the ground. She glanced at the human, expecting him to panic or prepare a weapon, but he simply smiled faintly. "Stay close," he said. "Trust me." She hesitated, then realized she had no choice. She followed him, every step a lesson in trust and observation. The shadows stretched longer, glowing symbols pulsed beneath their feet, and unseen eyes watched from every corner of the jungle. She felt the tension build with each movement, knowing the real challenge was just ahead. The human led her toward a faint glow in the distance, a sanctuary, perhaps, or a trap. She could not tell. And yet she followed him, heart pounding, mind alert, fully aware that whatever awaited them would test not just their survival, but their understanding of the very forces that ruled this alien world. Somewhere in the distance, a pair of golden eyes glimmered briefly before vanishing into the shadows.
"Oh."
She swallowed hard, feeling the mixture of fear, curiosity, and awe tighten around her chest. And she realized, with a shiver, that the jungle was alive and the human. He was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The deeper they went into the jungle, the heavier the air became, thick with humidity and the smell of damp earth. Strange glowing plants lit the path in eerie colors, casting shadows that twisted like living creatures. Every rustle, every crack of a branch, sent a jolt of fear through the alien's body. Her claws dug into the mossy ground, tail twitching nervously, ready for any sudden attack. She had faced countless dangers in her life, but nothing compared to the feeling of being completely outmatched by the jungle itself. And yet the human walked ahead of her with ease, as if the forest were merely a sidewalk. His movements were precise, almost graceful, each step measured, yet brimming with confidence. She found herself struggling to keep pace, not just physically, but mentally, trying to comprehend how someone could remain so calm in a place so deadly. Then, from the darkness above, a whisper of movement caught her attention. Shadows shifted, and she felt the presence of predators she could barely see. Her pulse spiked. She wanted to scream a warning, to leap into action, but she froze under the human's steady gaze. He slowed his pace, scanning the treetops, his eyes sharp, calculating. Without a word, he extended one hand slightly, and the shadows paused. Motionless, her jaw dropped. They weren't ordinary predators. These creatures were intelligent, moving with strategy and purpose, testing them, assessing every step they took. Yet the human remained unshaken. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he adjusted his weight, shifted his stance. And the creatures hesitated, as if recognizing an authority they could not challenge. The alien felt her mind race. How could one being command such respect without weapons? Without intimidation, she watched, fascinated and terrified, as a smaller creature leapt from a tree, claws extended, teeth bared. She expected an attack, a fight, anything but the human simply sidestepped, calm, effortless. The predator's strike missed by inches, and it landed awkwardly on the moss, startled, confused. One by one, the other predators made similar miscalculations, each movement misjudged because of the human's presence. She felt her fear and disbelief collide. Every instinct she had honed over years of survival screamed that danger was everywhere, but the human had turned it into a lesson in control. He didn't strike, didn't fight, didn't yell or demand, simply existed in a way that forced the predators to respect him. The alien's mind spun. She had studied countless species, known how to predict behavior, anticipate attacks, and survive. But she had never seen anything like this. It was not brute strength, not clever traps. Not weaponry, it was presence, awareness, intelligence, and something almost magical in its simplicity. The forest itself seemed to bend to his understanding. Leaves stopped rustling, shadows held still, and even the faintly glowing fungi dimmed as if paying attention. She realized, with awe and a twinge of fear, that survival was no longer about reacting to threats. It was about understanding the human, about trusting his instincts as much as her own. Then, a low rumble echoed from the deeper forest, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. She tensed, expecting the massive creature from before, perhaps something even worse. The human paused, hand extended toward her, signaling. "Calm, stay with me," he said quietly. The rumble grew louder, and from the shadows, a new presence emerged. Massive, dark eyes, glowing, muscles rippling, an apex predator unlike any she had faced before. She froze, heart pounding, convinced that it would end them both in a single strike. But the human did not move backward. He stood tall, calm, unwavering. The predator sniffed, studied, and then, astonishingly, it lowered its head slightly, stepping closer without attacking. Her breath caught. She had expected death, yet here was life, tense but intact, all because of him. She took a tentative step forward, feeling the jungle's energy shift around them, the tension easing just slightly. The human turned toward her, a faint smile on his lips. "Do you understand now?" he asked. She shook her head slightly, words failing her. I don't know how you do it," she admitted. "It's instinct," he replied simply.
Observation.
"Patience, respect. The jungle tests you. Yes, but it also listens. Fear is weakness. Calm is power." She tried to absorb the lesson, realizing that this encounter was changing more than her perception of danger, was altering her understanding of what it meant to survive, to lead, and to trust. Around them, the shadows shifted once more. The intelligent predators lingered, observing, testing boundaries, yet no longer attacking. The forest had acknowledged the human, and by extension, she too was allowed passage. Her fear had not vanished, but it had transformed into something else. Awe, respect, and a determination to understand the power she witnessed firsthand. She knew instinctively that this was only the beginning. The jungle held more secrets, more dangers, and perhaps more lessons. But with the human at her side, she felt a strange confidence, a sense that, together, they could face whatever lurked in the darkness ahead. As they continued forward, deeper into the alien world, she realized one undeniable truth. Humans were extraordinary. It's not because of weapons or armor, but because of presence, courage, and an understanding of life that transcended the ordinary. And in that moment, with glowing shadows and silent predators all around, she made a choice to follow him, to learn from him, and to face the unknown not with fear alone, but with the awe and curiosity his presence inspired. The jungle pressed in around them like a living wall, thick vines twisting in every direction, glowing plants casting distorted shadows that danced across the forest floor. Every step they took seemed to echo with intention, as if the very ground were alive, judging their presence. The alien's heart raced, claws flexing involuntarily as her senses strained to catch every sound, every movement. She had faced countless hostile environments across galaxies, yet this place made even the most dangerous worlds she had known feel tame. The air was heavy, electric almost, humming with the life force of the jungle and the creatures it protected. She stole a glance at the human, and as always, he walked with a calmness that defied reason. His movements were fluid, deliberate, controlled, as if the jungle itself were responding to his will. She had long ago realized that he wasn't just surviving. He was commanding attention, even from the predators that had previously terrified her. And now, the test intensified. From the dense canopy above, shadows shifted, twisting unnaturally. The creatures that had once tested them smaller, predators agile and cunning, returned, this time in greater numbers. Their eyes glimmered in the dim light, synchronized, almost mechanical in their precision. The alien tensed, expecting chaos, expecting to be overrun. Yet the human didn't hesitate. He stepped forward calmly, scanning the shadows, reading each movement before it happened. One predator leaped with lightning speed, claws extended. The human side stepped effortlessly, letting the creature pass harmlessly. And a second predator collided into it midair, losing balance. She watched, astonished, as each predator misjudged their strikes, miscalculating against the rhythm. He created with every step. "Stay close," he said softly, voice steady, almost soothing amidst the tension. She obeyed instinctively, following his lead as he guided her through the onslaught without a single weapon drawn. The jungle itself seemed to respond. Branches parted just in time, vines loosened their grip, and shadows shifted away as if granting passage. The alien's mind raced, trying to understand the logic of it all. It wasn't just skill or instinct, it was authority, presence, a force that bent even the intelligent predators to his control. She had seen many species, some even capable of coordination and strategy, yet nothing prepared her for this level of natural dominance. As they progressed, the air grew thicker, almost suffocating, with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient, something watching. Faint growls resonated through the jungle, deep and deliberate, vibrating through her chest. She froze, expecting the massive predator they had encountered before. Worse, an entirely new threat. The human slowed, adjusting his stance subtly. Reading the vibrations in the ground, listening to the jungle. He didn't panic. He didn't raise a weapon. He simply observed. And then it appeared. A massive creature, even larger than the first, eyes glowing like molten gold, muscles rippling under thick scales. Its roar shook the canopy above, scattering smaller predators, but it didn't charge. It circled, testing, judging, evaluating. The human standing calmly in its path. The alien gasped, ready to strike, to run, to hide. But the human raised one hand, calm, confident, commanding. The massive predator paused mid-step, nostrils flaring, then lowered its head slightly, acknowledging him. She could hardly believe what she was witnessing. The human had not fought, had not commanded with weapons or violence. His presence alone altered the behavior of even the most dangerous predator the jungle had to offer. Her fear slowly shifted into something else: astonishment, awe, and a reluctant admiration. How do you do it?" she whispered, almost afraid to break the moment. He turned his gaze toward her, faint smile on his lips. "It's not about fighting," he said quietly. "It's about understanding. They test you, yes. But they also respond to certainty, to calm. Fear is weakness. Calm is power." She swallowed hard, realizing the depth of his words. Everything she'd been taught about survival, strategy, and defense paled in comparison to the mastery he exhibited. The jungle itself seemed to breathe around them, shadows holding still, sounds fading to almost nothing, all waiting for his next move. Even the smaller predators that had attacked earlier now observed from the shadows, hesitant, respectful, cautious, and then the massive creature moved aside, retreating into the dense darkness, its acknowledgement complete. She exhaled slowly, mind racing, heart still pounding. This was beyond survival. This was dominion, subtle and powerful, an understanding of life and instinct that transcended mere strength or weapons. She realized that following him wasn't just about surviving the jungle, it was about learning from him, about understanding a level of power and mastery she had never encountered. The shadows deepened as they continued forward, the glowing plants casting twisted, dancing light around them. Every step she took felt like stepping further into a new reality, one governed not by fear but by presence and awareness. She understood. Now that this journey was teaching her more than survival, it was teaching her the extraordinary potential of humanity itself. And somewhere deep in the jungle, eyes watched, aware, intelligent, but cautious, knowing that the human was no ordinary being. The alien's pulse steadied as she realized she would follow him anywhere, through any danger, into any darkness, because she had seen the impossible and it was walking calmly ahead of her, smiling faintly, unshaken, and entirely in control. The jungle around them had grown darker, thicker, as if the world itself were closing in. Every step they took was met with a chorus of unseen whispers, the rustling of leaves, the snapping of branches beneath invisible feet. The alien's muscles remained taut, senses stretched to their limits. She had faced intelligent predators before, but the tension in the air now suggested something far greater, something older, stronger, and more cunning than anything she had encountered. She glanced at the human beside her, as calm as ever. Shoulders relaxed, movements smooth and deliberate. His presence seemed to command even the jungle itself. The faint glow of distant plants painted his figure in gold and green, highlighting the confidence and ease with which he moved. Then she saw it. Massive shadows moving in the distance, larger than any predator she had known, their shapes almost unreal, outlined by the glowing flora. The ground trembled as they approached, a low rumble vibrating through her chest, through her bones, warning her that death could strike in moments. Her tail lashed nervously. She expected the human to draw a weapon, to shout, to run, but he did none of these things. Instead, he slowed, eyes scanning the approach, reading the vibrations, the shadows, the intent behind each movement. Her mind raced. These were not ordinary predators. They were apex hunters, intelligent, aware, coordinated, and yet the human stood firm, a pillar of calm in the heart of chaos. The first massive creature emerged from the trees, muscles rippling, eyes glowing gold like molten metal. It growled low, a sound that shook the leaves and the alien's very core. The other creatures followed, surrounding them, circling, testing, sizing up their prey. She could feel panic rising. But she also felt the pull of something else, something magnetic and compelling in the human's presence. He did not move aggressively. He did not threaten. He simply stood, shoulders squared, breathing steady, and the creatures hesitated. One of the beasts lunged with astonishing speed, jaws snapping, claws extended. The alien braced for impact, ready to attack or flee, but the human merely sidestepped, his movements so precise it seemed almost like a dance. The predator stumbled, caught off guard, and immediately the others paused, uncertain, reading the rhythm he set. Her mind reeled. Fear and awe collided. How could one being unarmed, without any technology, command such respect from creatures so powerful and intelligent? The human took a slow step forward, scanning the shadows, his gaze calm and authoritative. He spoke softly, almost to himself, and yet the creatures seemed to respond to the sound. They stopped moving, watched, and then, astonishingly, began to retreat one by one, their massive forms disappearing into the darkness. Acknowledging his presence as something to be reckoned with, something to be respected, she exhaled slowly, unable to comprehend what she had just witnessed. She had expected death, chaos, a battle she could not survive. Instead, she had seen control, mastery, and a power that transcended violence. The human turned to her, eyes calm, a faint smile brushing his lips. "They test you, yes," he said, "but they also listen. You cannot fight everything. You have to understand. You have to be present. Fear will only make them stronger against you. Calm makes you stronger than them." She nodded slowly, still, trying to process the impossibility of it all. The jungle seemed to sense her understanding, the tension easing slightly, though she remained alert. Every shadow could still hide a predator, but now she knew that the human's presence changed. The rules. As they moved forward, deeper into the glowing forest, her eyes caught something unusual in ancient markings on the trees. Faint symbols that pulsed in rhythm with the forest's energy. The human stopped, traced a symbol with his fingers, and, smiled faintly. "The jungle remembers," he said softly. "Every predator, every movement, every life it has taken or spared. It listens to you as much as you listen to it. That is how you survive here. That is how you command respect." She realized that survival here was not just about strength or reflexes. It was about awareness, observation, and presence. Every creature, every shadow, every whisper of wind was a test, and the human had passed them all with a mastery she could barely comprehend. A faint rustle from behind made her glance over her shoulder. The apex predators had returned cautiously, circling them again, but this time differently, less aggressive, more curious, aware of the human's authority. Her heart pounded, yet she felt a strange sense of reassurance. He had turned the jungle itself, its creatures and dangers, into allies, or at least neutral observers. She stepped closer to him, instinctively trusting his guidance. He did not speak, only moved forward steadily, confident, guiding them through. The forest, as if the glowing plants and lurking predators were extensions of his own senses. She had never felt anything like it. Fear still lurked in her chest, but it was tempered by awe and admiration. The human's abilities were beyond anything her species had experienced. And as they vanished deeper into the dense, glowing jungle, she understood one undeniable truth. Humans were extraordinary, not because of weapons or brute force, but because of presence, courage, and the ability to command respect across species and environments. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows, ancient eyes watched, aware, calculating, understanding that this human was unlike anything the jungle had ever known, and that the alien by his side had witnessed something that would change her forever. The jungle around them had become a living labyrinth, thick with twisting vines, towering trees, and glowing plants that pulsed faintly like the heartbeat of the world itself. Every sound, every rustle, every distant snap of a branch was amplified, echoing through the dense forest like a warning. The alien's muscles were tense, claws digging into the mossy ground, tail flicking nervously behind her. She had learned much from the human already, but the night still held secrets she could not anticipate. Somewhere ahead, in the darkness, she sensed movement, the quiet power of predators observing, calculating, testing her courage. The human, however, moved as though he were part of the jungle itself, calm, deliberate, unafraid. His eyes scanned every shadow, his ears picking up every vibration in the earth, his instincts tuned perfectly to the rhythm of the forest. She felt herself drawn to him, not just following but wanting to learn, to understand how one being could command respect and fearlessness so completely. Then they reached a clearing, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The massive predator from before appeared again, not alone this time, but with several other creatures she had never imagined, towering, intelligent, and terrifying. Their eyes glowed like molten gold, bodies rippling with raw power, claws, leaving deep marks in the mossy soil. The alien froze, heart hammering, certain they would not survive this encounter. The human stepped forward calmly, standing tall amidst the circle of apex predators. Not a muscle twitched in fear. Not a weapon was raised. He simply observed, reading their movements, understanding their intentions, as if communicating silently with them. The predators tested him, lunging, snapping, circling. She expected violence, chaos, certain death, but it did not come. Every strike was avoided, every approach countered not with force, but with presence. He moved with a rhythm the creatures could not predict, commanding attention without aggression, dominating without striking. She watched in awe, her fear melting into something else, reverence. The jungle itself seemed to recognize him, as if the very shadows and glowing plants bowed to his control. Slowly, the massive predators backed away, one by one, their glowing eyes lingering just long enough to acknowledge him before vanishing into the dense undergrowth. The alien's breath caught. She had seen strength, cunning, and strategy in her lifetime, but nothing compared to the calm mastery this human exhibited. "Do you see now?" he asked, voice steady, almost gentle, yet carrying an authority that echoed through the clearing. Strength isn't always about weapons. Power isn't always about fear. Presence, understanding, That is what changes the rules. She nodded slowly, still trembling from the intensity of what she had witnessed. I understand, she whispered. You don't fight to survive. You survive to show them who you are. The human smiled faintly. Exactly. Then he gestured toward the shadows where faint glowing patterns pulsed on the ground, winding around the roots of ancient trees. This jungle, these creatures, they are alive in ways you cannot fully comprehend. They test everyone who enters. They remember. They respond to those who understand, who respect, who move with clarity. That is why we are alive. She stepped closer, realizing the truth in his words. Every predator, every shadow, every distant rustle had been a lesson, a test of patience, courage, and presence. And he had passed all of them, not through violence but through understanding, her mind. Swirled with the enormity of it all, humans were more than she had ever imagined. Predictable, fearless, extraordinary in ways that no technology or weapon could replicate. She felt a new determination building within her, not only to survive, but to learn, to follow, to witness the impossible. And then she noticed it. Even the jungle seemed to pulse with a different rhythm, as if acknowledging them, recognizing the human's mastery and the alien's willingness to follow. The forest's whispers softened. Without threat, predators lingered at the edge, curious, cautious, respectful. A new sense of clarity settled over her. She understood now what she had been missing in all her years of training, all her encounters with danger. Survival was not merely a battle of claws, teeth, or weapons. It was about presence, awareness, courage, and the ability to command respect without forcing it. In humans, this human exemplified it perfectly. The clearing grew quiet, the glowing plants casting soft light over the two figures. The alien took a deep breath, absorbing the moment, realizing the significance of what she had witnessed. Somewhere, deep in the jungle, eyes observed, ancient and intelligent, acknowledging that this human was extraordinary. The alien stepped closer, feeling a strange mix of awe, gratitude, and hope. I will follow you, she said softly. The human nodded, as if expecting her words. Good, he replied. There is much to learn, and much to survive. Understood that their journey was far from over. The jungle had more secrets, more threats, more tests, but with him she felt ready, not just to face danger, but to witness greatness, to witness humanity. And as they moved forward together, deeper into the alien world, she realized a truth that would stay with her forever. Humans were extraordinary not because of weapons, armor, or technology, but because of their presence, their courage, and their unshakable will. The galaxy, in all its vastness and danger, had never seen anything like this, never would forget.